and welcome to another episode of Wargames Geek. Today I'm painting a Mexican gunslinger which I use to play games of Legends of the Old West, which is a Warhammer historical game, but it can be used for any Wild West type skirmish games really. I've primed him with matte white and I'm now doing all of the skin area in barbarian flesh. So take your time as you go in on the face details. He's got a moustache, so just try to avoid that if you can, but we will be using other colours obviously, so if you do make a mistake we can go back over it again. So just try and get into the eye socket around the side of the nose. Oh, slight wobble there, and just try and get all of that skin colour face. We'll just move on to the other side, and you can see here I'm just moving the figure around upside down, however you need to, just to get into those areas. That's absolutely fine. Just do what you need to do to get in there and be able to paint it. Hopefully you'll find it a little bit easier if you haven't got a camera in the way of your paintbrush, but there we are. So that's the face. I'm just going to go in and I can see a bit where I've missed on his cheek there, so just do a little bit more paint on the cheek and just nice and gently, as carefully as you can, to get that done. There's a little bit under his chin there, and I can also see that his eye is going to need a little dab more paint as well. So let's just get into that now, and that's that done. So there we have it. His face is all finished, and then we're going to move on to his hands. So we'll do the hand holding on, the sort of trigger hand first. Just again, take your time, try and get up as close to that rifle stock as you can, and getting over to the back of the hand. Again, it doesn't matter if you need to move the figure upside down, however you need to do that. Just get the base layer paint on and take your time. You'll see that if you look at his collar of his shirt there, whilst I'm just painting the other hand, if you can see it, I have made a few little mistakes, but they'll be sorted out as we paint the other colours onto the model. So just get around to do the back of the hand now. Again, just if you need to go upside down, whatever you need to do, just get that paint on his thumb area and then the rest of the back of the hand. So that's the main skin colour done. As I say, that was barbarian flesh, and just have another little look, just see if there's anything you may have missed and any other little dabs of paint that you need to get onto the model. So I'm now using electric blue for the trousers, and quite a lot of detail in the legs here, so it's quite a nice figure to paint. Once the shading is done, I think that's going to look quite smart. A little bit of a blur there, sorry about that, as sort of zooming onto my hand instead of the actual model, but here we are. So get into the back of the trousers and just take your time getting into those areas. So as I said before, I use these for Legends of the Old West, which is one of the Warhammer Historical Rules. I've had that rule book now for quite a number of years, and I really enjoy playing that. But there are a multitude of other different types of Old West or Wild West type games available. Just see what tickles your fancy really. So that's the jeans done. I'm now moving on to the next colour, which is lava orange, and I'm going to do that on the front and back of the poncho. That's going to be the sort of main colour, front and back. So this one's quite a watery paint, so it's probably going to take a couple of layers, and just try not to let that bleed onto the areas you've already painted. So by all means, if you get it onto the sort of fronds at the bottom of the poncho, that's not a major problem, but try and avoid getting the paint onto the hands of the figure. So moving up then to the sort of neck area, and again just try not to let that make contact with the skin colour that you've already done. So I say it's quite a nice detailed figure to paint, plenty to sort of keep your interest on him. So painting now down to the back, so I'm going to go across the back and get all that done. Quite a large sort of plain area, so we'll put a pattern on that of some description to try and sort of bring a bit of attention to that. As you can see there, the orange is quite a thin coat of paint, so we'll need a couple on that just to give it a nice solid colour. So there we are, that's the first layer of the lava orange done. and now we'll come back just to show you the second layer. So that's 2 coats of lava orange on the poncho. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get a bit of a pattern on here, and I'm going to use matte black and just to do a stripe straight across the back, and we'll do the same pattern on the front as well. So a little bit more tricky at the front because obviously you've got the arms across his chest where he's holding his rifle. So it's just a nice sort of straight line going right across, and then we can start adding a bit of a sort of filler colour. You can see I've started here, and for that I'm using jungle green. So just underneath the black line there, we're just going to do a green stripe, again a very thin paint, so I'm going to need a couple of coats on that and just sort of fill that in below the black line. So just try and be nice and steady as you do this. Try not to go over that black line now that you've put that in there. That's going to be sort of part of the pattern of the poncho. The jungle green colour, as I say, you can see that's quite thin, so we'll need another coat. So just work out how far down you want to come with this stripe going across the back, and just try and keep that line as straight as you possibly can, and then just add the next, again, another black line. So it's sort of, that's a fairly simple pattern, and you can see that I've done the same on the front of the poncho there as well, so that that is the sort of design of this particular chap's jacket or poncho. The next colour I'm using is skeleton bone, and that's for the sort of tassels at the bottom of the poncho. And I've got a bit too much paint on there, but we'll let that sort of run through. And we want to just bring up some of that detail again of the sort of tassels hanging down there, because that will look good when it's been shaded. So just take some paint off. That's quite easy to do. Just take some of the paint off the brush, and then just use what's left on the figure just to spread that across instead of loading up the paintbrush anymore. So that's the back, and just got this little bit in the side here to do with the tassels, which I originally had painted in the lava orange colour by mistake. And then we're going to go across and do the front of the poncho, the tassels on the front of the poncho. And as I say, just drag that, if you've got too much paint on the brush, just drag it across, and then that will sort of thin it out as it goes naturally. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm just going to take a moment to ask you to consider subscribing to my channel. I do updates every Saturday, and something different every week, so please do subscribe if you're enjoying the video. Okay, so that's the poncho from the front. Looks quite nice, starting to take shape now. And then looking at it from the back, as we turn it around, I can see there's a couple of bits that need a little bit more of the skeleton bone on this back piece here. So let's just get those done and looking smart and ready for some shading. And I'm now using demonic yellow for the Gunslinger's shirt. So that's going to be the sort of 2 arms and the collar area that's poking out. Again, probably need a couple of coats of this one. Take your time here. Try not to let the colours, try not to let it go over the edge into the poncho that you've already painted, and just get those colours on there. He's looking rather bright in colour. Oh, made a boo-boo there. I've just gone onto the poncho. I'll have to repaint that. So I've just edited that through so that you can see that the shirt is now done. Quite bright looking colours. Just touch up where you need to, and he's starting to really look the part. So it's at this stage that I've realised that they're not actually just jeans. He's wearing chaps over the top of his jeans. So I'm going to go over the front colour, the front of the jeans if you like, and I'm using desert yellow to paint in the chaps here. So yeah, I made a mistake. It's good to show that to you guys that you know, we make mistakes. There's quite a lot of detail on these as well, some sort of buttons or buckles on the sort of side that I'm just going over now, and this is a fairly thin paint, so we'll again need two layers of that on the chaps. So let's just go round the front here, and then we're going to go into the side, and I'll show you how they look once they're done. So that's one leg done, and we'll just finish off this one here, and then we'll move on to the next thing we're going to paint, which is his canteen bottle or flask, which I'm using plate mail metal for, and just doesn't need an awful lot to be done on this, but just take your time here now because we're quite close up to other areas of paint. So just turn him upside down so you can get into the sort of any sort of crevices or areas that are hard to reach, and just get that bottle painted up. As I say, plate mail metal I've used for that. Okay, so that is the canteen bottle all painted up. Also on the chaps you'll see the little buttons that I mentioned before, so let's get a little bit of plate mail metal on those as well. It's the same one I used for the canteen bottle, and just get a little bit on those, just a little dab more here and on the top one, and then we'll turn it around to do the other side. Now I needed to let that paint dry a little bit more really. As you can see there, it's not really taken that well. I didn't realise it was still a bit wet, but it's on there, it's taken. And then once it's dry, I just went over it again and gave it another dab, and I'm going to give it another layer of the desert yellow on the chaps there. So the next thing to do then is we're going to paint his hair in, and he's going to be an older chap, so we're using ash grey for his moustache and his hair. A little bit too much paint on the brush again there. So just take your time, really do take your time now. This is we really don't want that bleeding onto the barbarian flesh, otherwise you'll keep going backwards and forwards all the time just trying to get it perfectly right. So just try and get it right first time if you can, but as I say, if you don't, no bother. So just a few final touches then. Let's get into the sort of side here near the shirt, so just be careful of touching onto the shirt that you've done. And then on the other side, just right down into that recess right underneath the collar, between the collar and the hat. So next we're using Monster Brown, and we're using that on the rifle, on all of the wooden areas of the rifle, and just again sort of taking your time now, so let's sort of sped that up a bit. And then I'm using gun metal for all of the metal parts of the rifle, so the barrel, etc. So there we are, that's where we're at so far. Pleased with how it's looking. There's a bit of touching up to do here and there, but I will do that before we do the shading part. So next then I'm using leather brown for his shoes, his boots, and it doesn't really matter if you make a bit of a mess on the sort of ground area here, but do take your time as you're coming up against the other coats of paint, such as the desert yellow. And just come around and do the other side, get that leather brown onto his other boot, and that is pretty much that done. Once you've done the boots, we're going to move on and use Zandri Dust from Citadel Paints. It's a lovely paint, this one. It's what they use for if you're into your 40k, it's used for painting the Cadian Imperial Guard troops. It's their sort of overalls underneath the armour. Lovely colour, and really nice and sort of effective for this chap's sombrero. So just get the sombrero painted in, and then once you've done all that, you'll need to go over and just have a look around and just see areas that you may have missed, or could do with sort of a sharpening up on the edges. So just take your time, get the hat done, and then we'll turn him over and we'll do the other side. So do the back of the hat, or the top of the hat if you like, and just get a nice base layer of paint on that. So it's quite a big area to paint, and once that's done, he's kind of really ready to be shaded. We will go around him again just to make sure, just to see areas that we think might need to be a little bit sharper, as I say, but we're pretty much there with that. So the next stage then with this guy is to see how well he can swim. And what I mean by that is he's going into some quick shade dip. So here it is now, just coming up on the screen. So this is a strong tone quick shade dip. I've gone round him, checked all the areas, made sure everything's looking smart. So with this, grab a pair of pliers, old pliers, chuck him in the drink, and then once you've done that, just shake off the excess. So I haven't shown that on the video, but give it a good shake, and then he comes out like this once he's dry, and that's at least 24 hours. So once you've done that, then a bit of basing, some anti-shine spray, and there we are. There's our chap all finished. Please do subscribe, comment and share the video. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.